Good evening and welcome to the Bladensburg Town Council meeting for Monday, July 15th, 2024. In case you didn't know, July is the best month of the year. Just kidding. But thank you for either tuning in or joining us here tonight. We will now call tonight's meeting to order and jump right into our very robust agenda. Before we get into Or actually, Council, if you don't mind, could we do the approval of the minutes first quickly and then the approval of the agenda should be number 2. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Brown, seconded by Councilmember Dixon. Any corrections or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. The agenda is approved as presented. So next, we'll go to the next item, which is
Mayor?
presentations.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yes.
Did we amend it because agenda is not on here? Did we put the agenda, is that where the amendment comes in, where we add the agenda? Approval
I
of
mean,
agenda? Or
I
does
guess
it
as
matter?
if, I don't think it matters because we have to do it procedurally anyway, but just according to Robert's Rule of Order, should we have amended it to add approval of the agenda?
Why don't you do a motion for that, Mayor, and that way,
Okay.
Councilwoman, I think that will cover everything.
So Councilmember Brown made the motion, so would you want to?
Yes, just add agenda, approval of agenda,
So you
work
want to
session agenda.
amend the motion to include approval of the agenda? Councilmember Dixon, do you second that?
Yes.
Okay. Seconded by Councilmember Dixon. Any questions or concerns with adding that formally to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Town Administrator Bailey Hedgepeth, we want to turn the next item over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, I appreciate this. We've had a employee that in some ways has gone above and beyond, and I kind of wanted to just do a special presentation because this employee, makes us think about our mascot, which is the eagle. And so when I thought of this employee, I decided I wanted to present him with something special because he's been someone who, no matter what I've asked him over the last 6 months, and especially because we had this wonderful July 4th, Independence Day thing, I wanted to award him something. It's called the Soaring Eagle Award. And we wanted to recognize him for his creativity and ingenuity in all things. Mr. Raymond Jeffries, can you please come forward and let me do that for you? You're welcome. It's suitable for
Wait, picture.
But the reason why I think that he deserves the Soaring Eagle Award is because in some ways Ray has always the kind of person who takes Ray is that person who's at the 5,000-foot level on a lot of things. He's thinking ahead like an eagle, and he's out there, in front of the team in some ways. And I just wanted to make sure that we recognized him for the star and for the eagle that he is. We're very lucky to have him. Mr. Jeffries has, worked as our marketing specialist, our cheerleader, and he's the person who, and anytime you need something, you can just ask Ray for it. So I wanted to take a moment to recognize him for all of his hard work. Thank you, Ray. Yeah, picture. Okay, and the council, do you all want to, I don't know if it's just me, but like. Okay, council, I look at council, I was like, I know that this is like, raise our social media guru. Raise our social media, so we need to have these on our social media feed as well, so. Mayor, okay, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I think I added blue to the end, so we have blue on both ends.
Okay, perfect. Ray, I will send you the photos and Chief can share his. Hopefully they are acceptable at your very high standards for the great work you do for the town. Again, thank you so much. Council, did you want to say anything before Ray heads out?
Oh, here's your box so that you can keep it forever, and I'm joking.
Ray, on behalf of Ward 1, I know Councilmember Brown is going to say something, but I want to thank you for your hard work. Thank you for every time I call on you, you're always there. It doesn't matter what time of the day, you're just always there to pick up. Thank you so much.
Once again, Ray, congratulations. Thanks for always being responsive and always being adaptable and always being willing to work and support in any way possible. Yeah, and you know, I definitely like working with you, especially you know, around that creative thing, and you do things real time. You know, and that's good. I like that. Appreciate that. So keep up the good work, and thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. Ward 2?
Whoa, whoa. You know, I thank you for everything, right? I mean, your creativity, you just awesome, awesome, awesome. And ever since the first day we did our first project, you just, you know, I got you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray, I truly want to say thank you. Ever since I've started, you've always been, you know, you've always been there, answer questions, and help me to navigate. And especially, I want to thank you for always using me as your guinea pig for your photos. But, but yeah, I thank you, and thank you for all your help.
Yes, again, thank you so much, Ray, and we will let you go this time, for real. Of course. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of the work session minutes for June 10th. Is there a motion to approve our minutes? Moved by Councilmember Dixon. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McBride. Any comments, questions, or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Next, we'll turn or transition to financial business with respect to ordinance number 01-2025, and we'll turn it over to the town administrator.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Thank you. Ordinance number 1 of 2025 is an ordinance asking the council to approve emergency funding for the Public Works facility. On July 4th, 2024, the facility was struck by a vehicle, and there's been significant damage. We have a claim with Legit, and it's a balance in, balance out. So if we get the $200,000, which we are estimating as the higher level within the next month of repairs, next month while you're in recess, that we would use the funding from Legit to repay that. So that's basically the agenda item.
Thank you, Town Administrator Bailey Hedgepeth. Were there any questions about the ordinance as presented in the council packet? Hearing none, I'll call for the motion to, we'll approve it in the 7 o'clock meeting. But again, any questions before we move on? Councilmember Brown?
I don't know if it's a question or a comment. So, and as I was looking at, this is the unfortunate circumstance, but this was great. So we filed the claim, and there's not going to be a cost to it. It's going to be covered by Legit insurance. Correct.
Yes, ma'am. So what what we would like to do is be able to have some funding in the interim of the council recess. We are not sure that it will cost up to $200,000, but allow the town administrator the authority to spend whatever is that up to that amount to do any kinds of repairs. And then we've also, yes, and so we've been told that the repairs that the things that we're looking for are allowable costs.
Okay.
But we will update the council in between, that if there's any changes in that I would let the council know. It's just more from the standpoint of being able to handle, let's say, a large bill that came in that would exceed my authority to allow us to be able to handle those bills.
Okay.
Sure, and before we come to Councilmember Dixon, do want to clarify, the building has been condemned, correct?
Yes, that is correct, Mayor.
Okay, which, for the general public, so they understand why the dollar amount is in, over 100,000.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Dixon, coming to you.
Thank you, Mayor James. That was actually my next question to Michelle. However, is there a time frame that, is it LGIT or LGIT? Is there a time frame to receive this reimbursement?
So, Councilmember, that's a great question. So it will be, we do not have an estimate yet from the engineer. So I don't have any expenses to match up with a timeline yet. And so hopefully that information will be shared. We'll probably have the engineering report within the next 2 weeks. And then we'll also provide that to council with a timeline. But if there is something immediate, like beam repair, or right now we have some costs that we've estimated about. Then I'm going to also invite Mr. Tonelli to speak in regards to this. But we have some costs that for the mobile mini office. And there's some, we've rented some fencing and things like that. So we're estimating about $12,000 to $15,000 a month in running costs for like just things that we have to rent over the next few months. So that's part of this. But then the other part for the large expenditures, we'll still come back to council if there is a construction contract that exceeds my authority. This is just for items that if we have onesie, twosie items, we will go back and we will bring the council those bid processes. And what we're also asking with this allowance is that if there is something that needs to be taken care of in an emergency manner, that we could take care of that without the normal bid process, because this will be an emergency expense. So what we would do is that if there's something that the engineer deems as an emergency repair that has to take place before your next meeting, this funding will fund that. But we will we're going to wait for the report from the engineer, because we have stabilized the building.
Okay.
We actually have funds that we've paid EM Block to stabilize the building with girders and supporters, so that the building will not collapse. But it is not inhabitable at this time, and we cannot have our functions out of that building.
Okay. And how is this affecting the workers?
That's why we
did they relocate some rooms?
Yes, that's why we're renting a mobile mini office, and we're also renting a storage locker for them to put their tools in, so they do not have to access the Public Works facility.
So how many engineers did we look at? Did we just look at one company, or did we look at various?
Oh, the town has a contract with the engineering firm, which is CPJ.
Okay.
And what we have done, which is where it's interesting, because that's another good question, we are at the point where we have just put out a new RFP for engineering, and that does not expire until October. So in order to have some continuity with this project, I have asked to have them to do this project, and if we choose another engineer, that they would finish this project, because they are officially our engineer right now. And so we are looking at those bids, and we will have that on your September agenda, so that we would introduce a new or same. They have also rebid, but they are your town engineer.
Okay. And this 200,000 is guaranteed?
This is an up to, not to exceed amount. This is not the guaranteed amount, and nor is it an amount that is based on a particular, I'm asking for the authority, and that the things will be brought back to the council, but we need some spending authority so that we can do that. But Mr. Tonelli will also be able to answer this as well, so that we can make sure that we're doing this.
Yeah, we've been in contact with Legit, and we let them know the quotes and everything it's going to take to drop an office trailer there, to drop a storage trailer there, to secure the building with fencing. And before that, we had the police department was watching the building as well. Now, as Michelle said, this will cover, if it's only $20,000 in repairs, great, it covers this, then Legit reimburses us. So we pay it out and then it comes back in less. I think it's a $5,000 deductible for this claim. But it could be a minor repair up to something very, very major. And I'm thinking it's going to be somewhere in there because the building is currently condemned and the vehicle impact was probably at the worst part of the building structurally. So,
Yeah, it looked like it hit two of the support beams on the image, so.
and the age of the building, I mean, even though they're steel beams, everything is still connected all the way through. You know, so you have an impact here, it could be felt, down here, attached here and over there, so it's, but we met with the adjuster and the engineers as well, and waiting for the full engineering report to come back. So,
Okay.
Any other questions, Councilmember Dixon?
So I have, my last question is, I know it's a hit and run. Did we catch that person?
Yes, I believe Chief Collington sent us that
He sent-
update last
okay.
week that they apprehended the responsible person.
Thank you, Chief. I didn't say it. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Thank you.
Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Tonelli, I think you answered the question. I was, in terms of the inspecting the building and the adjusters coming out to, kind of determine, what that dollar value, may be.
yeah, we have not received that yet, and that's what
Yeah,
we're
that's what we're
anxiously
waiting
waiting
on,
on
yeah.
right now. Because, I mean, it was hard trying to find any original plans of the building
Right.
because of the age, so they're almost building their own specs for it based on what's currently constructed.
Yeah. Is it possible to look at funding, some grant funding or something for a new building?
Interesting,
So Mayor, Council, I guess the issue that we will bring back to you is whether or not, depending on what the engineer comes back with, that we will make some recommendations and what that report says. Because we may say to you, if the engineer does say that that it's not, you can't repair this building, we will then start to go down a different road with you. This is more of that, if the engineer says, you can repair this building, and what gets you on the fastest way to repair it, us having cash. If the engineer says to us that that's not possible, we will be bringing that back to council, and that this money would only be used for the expenses related to housing, public works, their temporary housing, and their storage fees. And that would be where it's capped. So again, this is an amount not to exceed, but if there is a scenario that says the building, there's a possibility that the building would have to come down, then we would bring that to you.
Great. Did that answer the question, Councilmember Brown, or did you have a follow-up?
No, I mean, that answer, and then, then, like you said, once we get that back, we can take into account, how long we're gonna need the temporary,
Correct.
mobile housing and
Those
all
are,
that. and
yeah,
looking
we
at-
put all of that
looking at-
together
looking
for
at-
you.
looking
And then,
at-
I mean, the other part is that you could look at the fact that you do have capital funding from the state for the town hall itself, so that in an effort to spend down some of that funding because of the immediate need, then you'd have to go back to you'd have to go back to your legislature and say, hey, this is what has just happened. So you could move around your bond bill funding. That is a possible source.
Councilmember McBride or Blunt, any further questions? All right. Any other questions, Councilmember Brown or Dixon?
You want, in terms of the mobile,
Sure.
temporary mobile, is it listed here? I think that was.
It is in there. I mean, I believe that when we wrote it, it's included. That's part of it doesn't say it specifically. I think that's what you wanted, that's what you wanted to say it specifically, mobile mini, but it's the offices and storage spaces. Yeah.
All right, thank you for those updates and for the questions. So hearing or seeing no other questions regarding the ordinance number 01-2025, we'll move down to approval of the contract with LSWG for the town's audit service. or services for 3 years with 2-year extension. Before I go to staff, I just want to mention to our residents, the reason that we do this every 3 or so years is just to make sure that we don't stay with a firm too long and they get too comfortable and start missing some important steps in the audit. So we do every so often switch the providers. And so it's just that we're at the point where it's time to go back out. It's not that there's a problem with our current provider. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Bailey Hedgepeth and Mr. Tonelli.
I'm going to let Mr. Tonelli provide you an overview of his review of the bids for this one. Mr. Tonelli?
I sent this out to 7 auditing firms. I got through MML, who's been past sponsors, and also through Maryland GFOA. I sent it out to them. Three responded, and with one responding saying they're declining to bid. So we had 2 responses. One is Zelenkovsky and Axelrod, and the other is our current auditor of LSWG. And I did ask our previous auditor when I saw him at MML, why didn't he respond? He said he already has 28 June 30th engagements and he can't take on any more June 30 clients, and we are June 30 fiscal year end. And I joked with him like, well, why are you here advertising? You can't take on any more. But that's, and I attached the scope of the audit, and the changes or the options on there are for the single audit, which is for federal funds in excess of $750,000. The only time that we're going to see that is if we spend the earmark money all in one fiscal year, and that would be the only one. And the other is the alternative compliance there for ARPA. We're going to have that for this fiscal year only, the current fiscal year. For FY24 and for FY25. And also for the filing with the state, which is the UFR filing. Zelenkovsky and Axelrod, just for their base audit bids, were $29,500, $31,000, and $32,550 for the 3 fiscal years. And our current auditor was almost half of that, at $15,000, $15,500, and $16,000 for each of the respective next 3 fiscal years. Now, when I added up the other options on the low to medium end, LSWG was still between $6,000 and $10,000 cheaper per fiscal year. So I'm recommending that we stay with LSWG and for the next 3 years based on the responses that we received and also the no response that we received as well.
And Mr. Tonelli, I know I saw it in Z&A's fee structure, but if we were to have LSWG come out to a council meeting and say present the annual budget, is there an additional fee for that, or is it included in
No,
their
it's included.
services? Okay,
It's included as part of what they do.
perfect. Any questions from the council regarding the recommended audit service provider? Councilmember Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. No, you answered the questions, because I had some questions regarding the Zelenskovsky.
Z&A. I like what the mayor said.
But thank you for that. Now, are there any instances where they would charge us hourly rate for anything that we may
I think
need?
if the audit goes above and beyond like the expected time frame is when they would start charging their professional rates. If they can't get information from us, if they're waiting on information from us, luckily we haven't had that happen. So we try to get it done as quickly as possible. And I think that's about it, really.
Now, just one other thing real quick, because with the federal grants and with us going after, other funding in terms of, I think you said that would fall under the single
Single
audit?
audit, yes.
Yeah, and so, I mean, would it be applicable to like one grant, large grant, or
Yes.
how does that?
If one grant goes over $750,000 per fiscal year. Now, ARPA, I want to say the feds downgraded it to that ACE, which is the alternative compliance, so you don't have to do a full single audit. So that's why it's listed out separately on there.
Okay.
But at any point, yes, if the grant funds, now, like, LSWG put a high end on like $20,000 for single audit, but that's if you have multiple, large federal grants.
Okay.
We're dealing with one, at the most
Right now.
maybe, possibly one, at the most maybe two, and they're for single programs. There's not like some large federal awards cover multiple programs, and they have to, look at each component of that large federal award for their compliance purposes.
Thank you.
We're simple, it's.
Thanks.
Any other questions from the council? All right, thank you, Mr. Tonelli, for explaining that proposal and the justifications for that recommendation. As folks are aware, we'll vote on it since it is a financial matter in the 7 o'clock meeting. Next, we'll move on to item number 5, new business. And with LA Press Consulting, are they online? Okay, so I think Mr. Jonathan, I almost said Jonathan Butler, Jonathan Brown. I want some Sarah from South Africa. The guitar.
So, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me this evening. Before I kind of begin my legislative updates, Tony's on the line. I'm gonna let him kick it off, and then we'll head right into the updates.
Well, good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the commission and staff. First of all, we want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to present for you and the community this evening. We also want to commend your staff, your town manager for, being a good, strong partner and working together and to be able to get things done, at a rapid pace. And even at last minute, she's always been on the spot. I think she and Jonathan definitely have built a strong working relationship. But Jonathan's going to give the bulk of our report, but we just wanted to first of all, sorry we couldn't be there. I had we had some back-to-back meetings that were on virtually, and I think it would have been just a little bit hard to try to do some of that in the car. But anyway, thanks for having us. But for those that don't know, or for our listening audience, LA Perez is a government relations based company. I am the Tony Perez, the CEO and owner of the company, but we also, participate in a number of things in our business, not just the legislative or government relations lobbying portion of this. We do outreach with our healthcare. We help with economic development. We've done that. We're working with some municipalities on things like that. And we also get involved in a little bit of grant writing. So we never take the time to mention all the things that we do with the company. So we're here to provide whatever services is required for the great town of Bladensburg. So with that being said, we just want to thank you again for the opportunity, number one, to be able to represent you, because that's the most important, because we think your town does an excellent job. You're really hands-on and focused on the growth of your town. And I think you're going to continue, it's the path you're on. You're going to continue to do good things. I want to also congratulate the winner of, not the winner, the award acceptee of the employee of the month. I guess if that's what that was. So we would like to say congratulations from our company. So with that being said, I'll pass it over to Jonathan for his report, and we'll try not to keep you because we know you have other business tonight, and we understand time from the past years we've come before you. So I'm going to respect that. Jonathan, I'll pass it over to you, and we'll be here for any questions in the end. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. Thought I could see the presentation before. I can see it. There we go. Thank you. So when we met before, which was around the time that the session was coming to an end, and we do a very detailed end of the session report. I did provide that to your spot on town administrator, so she has that. Michelle and I did talk about that, but we wanted to focus on specifically because there's any number of bills, any number of things that are going on we were looking at, but what were some things that that mayor and the council wanted us to hone in on and look on from a Bladensburg perspective that was very important to them. So I'm going to kind of cover some of the things that passed and what the overall effect was once the bill went into effect and was signed. House Bill 0306. So that was an economic innovation, Prince George's County Economic Innovation Fund that was sponsored by Chair Lewis. It was mainly focused on at the time when it initially came out, was initially focused on promoting and spurring technological jobs within the county, having a countywide strategy, if you will, to coalesce around to build those businesses and build that organization and build that structure that we just desperately needed within the county. Initially, there was talks of a venture capital fund. I know Mayor was very astute to see that in the bill. That unfortunately did not make it in the end. The funding perspective on the capital this year, things were tight across the board. I think Tony is living in those halls when this is in session. He can attest to that. Funding was a little tight this year. So the venture capital piece cut out, so no funding was associated with it. However, in terms of the structure of the bill, it was kind of realigned, if you imagine, more to a work group style structure, with a requirement that by January 15, 2026, that work group has to report out on that structure that I've been speaking about. So that group's going to have to speak out on what is that economic development, what is that roadmap we can coalesce to in Prince George's County, and what resources are necessary and infrastructure is necessary to have that come about. So, so overall, a positive bill. I think we were really kind of focusing on seeing what the venture capital funds may provide, but I think overall this is a group that will come together that will do some good things for Prince George's County. House Bill 0307, that was the Class C beverage license for fraternity. So this kind of opens up the door for licenses for fraternal groups to be able to get together, and other not-for-profit type groups as well, for unique opportunities for gatherings, to be able to raise funds, to get issue a license, to be able to serve alcohol. That was something that previously was not in effect. It was not kind of a mechanism someone could use easily. Now there is a path and a roadway for that. Next slide. So we kind of talked about this. It was HB 396 and HB 398. Both of these passed, and both of these, to kind of put it simply, was a situation where the county CEO, the Prince George's County Board of Education, and the state legislators were kind of all on different pages. But at the end of the day, it passed. And what that meant is that there is a tax on energy within the county. There is a telecommunications tax that in the legislation allowed for the county to be able to tax. It was able to give one tax. Now it can tax per line. So it's actually a telecommunications tax will pull in more money than what it was pulling in before. That money, without question, will be earmarked for education. But it also will count toward the amount that the county puts toward education. So ultimately, that was the conundrum the county was in. The county had the deficit, $62 million. So it was trying to alleviate some of this pain. Ultimately, both of these bills passed. So that will be clarity in terms of education being funded still at a great and high level, and all parties being on board with this decision. HB 282, even though we'll talk about that a little bit, that was something we had interest in as well. It would that bill would have allowed a technician, vice a police officer, to certify your speed camera tickets. That unfortunately did not pass. However, through a lot of coordination with MML, a lot of conversations we've been having, we're confident that we'll keep our eye on that. I'm confident that is a bill that will get reintroduced, and we'll be able to push that through to allow our police force to do other things that are more important, such as servicing the citizenry and making sure our streets are safe and not so much having to have to handle a speed camera if necessary. So on the next slide. Yes.
A quick question on HB
Yes, ma'am.
282. So I know from the policy committee or legislative committee calls for a PGCMA, it seemed like most of the municipalities were in favor of pushing for a non-sworn member of the police department to be able to take that task on. And so are you saying it was included or it was not as part of the final bill?
Yes, so that's a great question. So there was ebbs and turns and flows with it. So when it began out as a pretty straightforward bill. It would allow municipalities to enable a technician, vice a police officer to be able to service the bills. As always, Mary, you follow on closely. That got muddied with an amendment. The bill got changed over to only municipalities that did not have a police force, which that would only be two within Prince George's County, Eagle Harbor and North Brentwood, right? So it wouldn't have favored the vast majority of the 27 municipalities. So we were successful as PGCMA level at putting pressure on, I can't remember the delegate at the time who proposed this bill, putting pressure on a particular delegate to get them to remove the amendment. That happened. Unfortunately, it was actually two of Prince George's County's own that kind of took advantage of the confusion that kind of put the nail in the coffin, if you will, in terms of canceling out that bill when the amendment was removed and it kind of went back to its original form, which was what PGCMA supported. But I think all in all, after it was all said and done, greater communication and bonds were established, because if we would have known in advance that it was kind of Prince George's County senators that were kind of causing this to have some issues and problems, we probably could have interfaced in a different way. So it was kind of found out in the ninth hour. But yes, I'm fully confident that we'll, high degree of certainty, we'll see HB 282 again, and we'll push harder on it, just as hard on it as it's going. So
Thank you for that.
no problem.
So, Mayor, just,
Jonathan, one more question while we have a
Sure.
pause.
just for clarification, it did not pass.
Correct.
It did not. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And so for those that are
go ahead.
watching, what that means is instead of us being able to have a civilian for the police department review the speed camera violations in an authorized capacity and approve them so they can be processed, we have to use officers instead of using them for police work, so to speak, on the street. We have to pull them to do this administrative function. So that's why PGCMA's position was to modify that so that a non-sworn member of the agency could take that task on. Chief, did I capture that okay? Mr. President of the Prince George's County Chief Association? Okay. Okay. All right, Jonathan, thank you.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
So I think in terms of Senate Bill 0148 passed, that did have significant funds associated and tied with that. That was Senator Washington's bill, and it earmarks about $20 million for stormwater management funds. That takes place fiscal year 2026. With an aim at underserved communities being first. Also looking at how much does a municipality want to place up in terms of being able to take care of the issue or problem. But overall, a good bill for that. Also, as Tony always likes me to make sure I put a plug in terms of bills we were watching that this year that did not pass. That could have been not advantageous to Bladensburg. There were a lot of zoning bills, like even at the county level and even at the state level, there were some zoning bills that, whether it was fairness in zoning, et cetera, that would have, caused some jurisdiction issues, or have someone be able from all over the other side of the county be able to come in and protest something going on in Bladensburg. Those did not pass, and we definitely were very vocal. A lot of credit to Tony, definitely very vocal in terms of making sure that voice was heard in terms of making sure we want economic development and great things going on in Bladensburg, and we don't want that to be messed with. So that's also something important. Parental accountability. We work at Tony about. I talked to the chief a lot about this. I know he was very supportive of this in terms of assigning civil responsibility to parents when children, unfortunately, are doing breaking the law and doing mischievous things. That unfortunately did not pass. I think that had a lot of support behind it by a lot of different organizations. So hopefully that will be something we'll keep on our radar to look for again to see if something like that pops up as well in the next session. I think the only thing I have that's not on the slides is there's a local, talking to Michelle, a local update that I was briefing her on, and that's term of the late night business plan. And that number for that bill is, give me 1 second, off my head, CB 016-2024. And kind of in a truncated manner, the county is asking to reduce crime, is asking businesses to kind of help take care of themselves. And if you operate between the hours of 12 a.m., 12 a.m. and 4 a.m., they're saying that you need to have a late night business plan that you will submit to the county every 2 years to certify how you plan to take care of yourself. How do you plan to deter crime and deal with crime? There are minor exemptions to it, like hospitals, things of that nature, don't have to apply for that. So there's limitations to it. But if you are a business operating between those hours, reasonably be able to expect to submit this plan. The costs are kind of uncertain at this time. I will say that they are proposing grants to small businesses and things of that nature that they need money to get up to par to what the county would suggest they do to keep themselves safe. So that could be a potential impact on the business community within Bladensburg. But something we're closely following and monitoring it, and we'll keep providing updates and let you know what happens with that.
I mean, Jonathan, if you're done, I just want to add couple of things. We were successful. I mean, this was actually, I was glad to hear earlier in your meeting, you're talking about audits, because there was an audit bill that came up again this year, as we said it would, and we were successful in getting it amended in the appropriate fashion. But it's one of those things that Bladensburg doesn't have to worry about because you do your audits. So if you do your audits, you don't have to worry about the legislation. I mean, you're already following the law, and you have some extensions, a little bit more time now. We don't like to advertise that too much, but we were successful in getting those amendments in. So I think that's important. And as it pertains to the county, look, for as far as like public safety and zoning, we understand. I think you all have a very strong voice in the community, and I think, and I always say with you all that know me very well, know I'm always going to be very open and transparent with you. I'll say this. I think it's very important that, when we have our meetings with, the state's attorney's office and others, that we stress our concerns over, when arrests happen, that when the police do their job, that, these individuals aren't back on the street the next day or within the next few hours to cause more havoc. That we have to be together and work together. We have to come up with a strategy to talk about how we keep these individuals, from doing the same things all over again. So, I mean, it's your voice that you're an elected body, and your residents have to be very clear about that. It's all about, safe communities. That's one. And as far as the zoning, I would tell you to just be sure that obviously we stayed on top of the things and had to kill a lot of things that actually it came from some places in the county that were either, local state bills or statewide bills that would have impacted, as Jonathan clearly stated, would have impacted your opportunities for economic development in your town. And so we have to make sure, as we talk to our local county officials, that they're aware that we have concerns. We want growth And if you're going to get that growth, you're going to have to stand up against bills that come forth in the state or the county level that's going to prevent you from having the opportunities for growth. And your message has to be very clear. That it's not a shot at any elected official. So let me be very clear about that. But we're still waiting to, well, let me say this. We want to make sure that, when investors want to come to Prince George's County, they're not worried about going through the process. And right now, there is grave concern with investors coming to this county to bring economic development. And it's going to take the community's voice, municipal government's voice, and others to continue to stress we need certain things to come to our county so we can grow and generate revenue for public safety, for our schools, for our municipalities. I mean, look, we're short on crossing guards. You all know we're watching over that as well. That's why we were able to get the chief of police to come on with PGCMA. That came from our request. And we had the comptroller come to PGCMA, but you all have had those great conversations with those individuals. But we will continue to watch the interests of this town and try to create the best results possible in the best interest of the town and the residents that live in it. So thank you. I'll close with that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I think that was the last of the presentation for me, open to the mayor and esteemed council, if you have any questions for me.
That conversation.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because that's what happens a lot of times, is like, wait, too late to talk about our legislative priorities. So I think that September timeframe is excellent. I think it's good.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So we'll coordinate with both of you to get that scheduled, and then just make sure we have the right representatives joining for that discussion if need be. Otherwise, it can just be amongst us to start brainstorming on what our priorities need to be. So with that, thank you for joining us, gentlemen. We're going to keep moving because we're a little behind now. That was 21 minutes instead of 7, so we've got to make up some time.
Sorry, we're not looking at the agenda. We apologize for going over, and I said something about time. But let me say this: your city town administrators credit, she's already started talking about us doing some things in September through our sidebar conversation. So I'm glad to hear it come from the council as well. So thank you for that.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
next-
thank you all. Be safe.
You too. Thank you.
Stay hydrated.
We'll do.
All right. It did sound like it. We were like, wait, where's this going? All right. Under new business, sticking with item number 5, we're now on to letter B, resolution number 01-2025. Town Administrator.
Mayor, Council, this is a resolution that is to support the fire department. There's been a series of issues that I think with the new budget year, and that the chief, both fire chief has been sending letters to you, and instead of just a letter of support, the resolution in some ways is a more formal way, a formal method of showing your support for the fire department. The mayor had a chance to go through it, and I've also forwarded this to the fire chief, but it really kind of, it really does go through all the items that the fire department has been having in regards to their relationship with the county, and sort of bringing home that shortages issue that they have in regards to the full-time staffing. And just from the standpoint of what's going on, to go back a step for the public that may not be aware, we've had the county has cut the budget in regards to staffing a lot of the volunteer stations, and this has then caused I would say in some ways rolling blackouts, what they usually call it, of staffing through, and because ours is 100% volunteer, it affects us because of the way that those staffing cuts hit the other the other stations that rely on full-time staff. So it's not that it doesn't affect us because we're 100% volunteer. It affects us as well because the amount of call volume does increase that way, and then that makes our staffing respond in a different way. So I just wanted to mention that so that you had that information.
Thank you. Any, excuse me, any questions for the town administrator with regards to the resolution in support of the fire department? Okay, one question, if I may, town administrator, under the first whereas, just because this is really following up on the Port Towns quarterly meeting where we discussed supporting them, if it could just say by their respective commission and council, so that way it reflects Cottage City's legislative structure as well as those of us who have councils. And then, yeah, the first one. And then under 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth one, whereas our volunteer firefighters have faithfully served our communities for over a century, if we could just say, comma, and as 100% volunteers for the last 20, comma. Sean, did I get that right? 20 years? Okay. Sean happens to be a member of the Bladensburg Volunteer Fire Department. Okay. So those were the items I noticed. And again, it's just to let the county executive and fire chief know that we're standing in support of the volunteers, but also trying to continue having the necessary conversations in order to come to some reasonable solutions. I will say she has made some concessions because when I reached out the other week, our station had been out of service for a couple of days, but because I reached out, she made some concessions and again allowed them to go back in service. But we have a serious ripple effect. Pulling career firefighters out of the stations where they're necessary puts a greater strain on the volunteers. And we respect the fact that the county is trying to solve for excessive time off and vacations, which those staff members have actually earned. That's their right to take their vacations and time off. You also have people just calling out, people who are calling out sick, people on FMLA. So we, as people who have to represent a community, we understand those things happen. But now what's happened is they've solved for a problem for the career firefighters, and they've created the very same problem for the volunteers who have a full-time day job. They also have their families and other commitments, and they're trying to volunteer to serve our communities. So that's why we want to continue pushing to support them. Councilmember Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm good. Yeah.
That was a nice way of saying I said too much. I got fired up. I got hot, as you said before.
Not just, it's just sad that, between the volunteer firefighters and the career firefighters, that with the county, that we're just here in this predicament because they're all here to serve us and to serve the public in safety, in our safety. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions regarding the resolution? All right, and we're at 6:23, so we still have a few more things to get through. The next item is the memorandum of understanding between Amen Trust and the town of Bladensburg, so I'll turn it over to Town Administrator Bailey Hedgepeth.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm lucky enough to have Mr. Sam Parker here from the Amen Trust with me as I make this presentation. The town of Bladensburg and the Amen Trust have been working cooperatively on an agreement with, I want to make sure that I get the name right, but it's called it's called Encore Sustainable Architects. Encore Sustainable Architects answered and completed an RFP that was put out by both the trust and the town for a study that looked at the site and looked at the future use of the site. It's a little bit different than the ULI. I guess I want to make sure that, Boswick has studies upon studies upon studies, but this is a different study upon study. The study actually looks at the mechanicals in the building and actually looks at some of the stabilization issues that we've been trying to deal with. One was done approximately 20-plus years ago, I would say, in regards to some of the engineering work. But this engineering work has to be redone because of the issues that the building has for the stabilization. And so the scope of this is approximately $200,000. The town has been working to try to get an agreement, but it would be faster and would expedite the process if Amen Trust was the project manager on this versus the town. And it's kind of complicated, but in a way that we've agreed that Amen Trust, by doing this MOU, the town would pay Encore directly because it is our money the money comes through the town for the bond bill, and then Amen Trust would be helping us with the project management. I'm still working, we are still hand in hand on this project. It's not the fact that Amen Trust will take over it or that we're signing over anything to it. Amen Trust is actually helping us because they're willing to take on this project. And I just wanted to kind of explain it in a way that, because this is really them being team players to help us to expedite this and to get this done. Mr. Parker, I know that we usually don't take comments from the public, but I just wanted to if Mr. Parker did have anything to say, he's just here to support.
As a part of the presentation, Mr. Parker, would you want to come to the podium and share a few remarks?
Thank you all very much. Thank you all very much. There were two things I wanted to emphasize. We are a team, and we're working jointly in trying to get Boswick to the place that the town wants it to be. And even though, as Michelle said, there have been a ton of studies, this is necessary to move Boswick into a position where we can continue to raise money to actually meet our final vision. And again, we are more than willing to act as a project manager. And the other thing I'd like to mention that's important is that we've built up a bit of momentum. This delay, it's almost 4 months.
Yeah.
That we feel this is kind of necessary to kind of move us along rather than getting stuck again in a little bit of a formality that we think that the Amen Trust can help facilitate to move it along. So it is a critical step, and it's an important step to get to a final implementation of what the town sees as the vision for Boswick.
Thank you for that, Mr. Parker. And again, just to clarify, I know TA Bailey Hedgepeth said there's been studies previously that are just grossly outdated. So as we're trying to get additional funding, we need something that is current and really assesses what aspects of the house exactly?
In order to take the house to another level of use, we have to know what's wrong with it. And we have to know how much, what kind of repairs, what kind of restoration is necessary, how much it's going to cost, and at what stage it should be done. And so I shouldn't say all those studies have become useless, because the architects and the engineers will go through all of that. And in some cases, it saves us a little bit of money if there's some things that are useful. So it's not an add-on. It's kind of like bringing it to the present time of things that need to be completed, repaired, or restored in order to move us to the next point of the use of the building.
Yeah, and I think another aspect that we spoke with Alcor about are systems in the building, let's say like AC and engineering systems that don't exist, and how those would be implemented to make it a modern facility. So, to use it for some uses, because right now it's not as usable because we don't have AC, we don't have the humidifier to the level that we need in the place. So that's what they will also study, is how to make those things coexist in this space. And I think that's something that we have not had before in the other studies, and that's what actually looks at how do you use it for modern use. And I know that's the main difference between these two scopes.
It's almost, for the benefit of the public, like a detailed home inspection report before you buy your house, where they go in and do a thorough assessment from top to bottom, the roof, everything, the outlets. So just for those that are watching, it's critical to know that and then understand, okay, now how do we build out that timeline? and prioritization for the repairs that need to be done. Is that a
Correct.
fair assessment, Mr.
Correct.
Parker?
Yes.
Okay. Council, any questions or comments? Councilmember Brown?
Thank you for that. Much appreciated. And I'm glad to see that things are moving forward but I would like to see, because there have been studies done, we've done this, done that, a lot of things done in the past. Some things may be outdated, some things may still be relevant. But in terms of funding, and maybe Mr. Tonelli, just, kind of getting a snapshot of saying, hey, this is what we've invested, or some monies that have been, given towards the Boswick project, over the past few years, and you have to tell me now.
Okay, I was about to say, because that goes on from the previous town clerk, Pat McCauley was very involved with that.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of traction then, so it's, and Sam has helped all along the way as well. And
Yeah,
it's,
But just as a snapshot, then we just kind of see, and with where we are now, because in terms of a modernization of it, I mean, some of those things, I don't even think that part was in terms of modernization. But yeah, so I definitely think it's great for them to be kind of help to project manage it. But with the funding, what's in place? What's the implementation with the reimbursements and all that, and how that's going to work? And I know that I'm trying to be mindful of
No,
our time as well.
I can also answer it in the regular session, but, Councilmember, to kind of to simplify it, is that it's a reimbursement so we will get the bills as they come in from Encore, and they will pass them on to me within 30 days. I will look at them and assess them and then make the payments, but we're working collaboratively as these all come in. But the study itself is 2 years.
So I think the point was, because it says approved by Amen Trust, should it be, the invoice is approved by the town and Amen Trust? Is
Yeah,
that-
that's what's in the MOU. It's both of them. I think it's covered.
So it says, whereas the town will act on and pay all invoices approved by Amen Trust. So this is on the first page of the
Okay.
MOU.
Yeah, I'm trying to read through it, so I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Give me a second.
no
Yeah.
problem.
Probably like 1, 2.
So,
We will approve that the work has been
it's
completed.
completed, and then the town will then I will go through and I will approve it for the payment process, but we are both doing that at the same. So when they're saying that it's completed, but I'm also seeing it at the same time.
I see what you mean. So really, it's, the
Simultaneously.
town will act on and pay all invoices for work approved by Amen Trust from Encore.
Right.
Okay, and then it comes down to where the town signs off on
Right.
everything.
Yes, the
Okay.
town signs off on the
Does
approval.
that
Yeah.
answer the question, Councilmember Brown?
Well, kind of, yeah, just make sure it's a little bit more clear to me, but it's, yeah.
I mean, if we
It
can, if
kind
you
of
want, if we
answers
need
it
to
a
wordsmith
little
the
bit.
language any clearer, we
Yeah,
can. We can definitely work through that and make that sentence a little bit more clear.
And so this is for 2 years?
No, well, this.
And the MOU is gonna be for 2, but the study is gonna be for 2 years?
It could take as long as about 1.5 to 2 years, because it doesn't, it's not what do you think, Sam? It's my
No, the
understanding-
study will be completed in a 12-month
12
period
months, right.
according to the contract.
Part of the contract, but I just feel like right now, as we start it could take, we would be done in 26, probably, completed.
We better.
That's what I'm saying, we'd be done in 26.
Well, the other part of it too is, for this, we would be spending down that bond bill, so we have to make sure that it's spent down within that time frame.
Right.
So, and I thought there
The
was,
second, there's actually a second one in where we're doing repairs, which that's the
Yep.
next one. I really kind of want to get to you to show you where that one is, because that's what you're saying, like actual repairs, and that's being done by the town right now, too.
oh, your mic's not on.
Oh, I'm sorry, but there's actually a second
Can you
item.
repeat all of that, please?
So there is actually a second item, sorry.
Well, yeah, because for the public, they missed.
Oh, sorry, there's actually a second item that is on, in regards to Boswick, which Sam can also, but that was also bid at the same time, and it's for the stabilizations, and it's the second $300,000. There's a total of $500,000, and there's $300,000 that's going to be spent on actual stabilization repairs. And the first one that I'm bringing you is for $83,000 to do the window repairs. And then the second portion, Councilwoman Brown, which you'll see in September, is the masonry and the tucking, which is,
Okay.
we'll do, so those are, so there are two parallel,
Okay,
there are
okay,
two
okay.
parallel tracks going on. There's the actual stabilization projects that were listed by, that we have over $1.5 million of stabilization projects of just things to keep the building together. And then there's this project. And the reason why, again, Sam is saying, the reason why we've lost time on just trying to get this project started, and that's the issue, so,
Thank you, because we keep losing time.
yeah.
But thank you.
And then if it's possible, just because there's been so many things happening over several years, if the staff could provide the council with a snapshot, that would also include the number of projects, because I know recently we also authorized funding for, I think, the buttress stabilization as well. So that way it just helps us to track all the different projects that are going on over there. And then we can message that as we're talking to our state and county representatives to let them know where we need some funding. Does that work?
Yes, we will do that, and we'll put together a comprehensive for you for September so that you can see where all the money has been spent and where it's being spent.
Great, thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Parker, for joining us and for all the work you're doing with Amen. You could have just ridden off into the sunset and you're still helping us out. And for those who don't know, Mr. Parker is the former chairman for MNC PPC, so he has been serving our county for many, many wonderful years, and we're grateful to still have his expertise helping us out. The next item on the agenda is the approval of a contract WMG restoration, which was briefly alluded to, so now we'll get a little more into that, Town Administrator.
Yes, Mayor Council, this is a replacement of our windows with a net cost of $830. But if we have to use the Davis-Bacon wage scale, and we obtain a bond, which sometimes are required in regards to these kinds of projects, it's a total of $83,000 as noted in the council agenda. But these are breakdowns of windows that are in the front, and I've included pictures, which our project, our new software is a little newer, and it puts it at the end. But there are photos in here of the windows that we actually are going to be repairing, and I will pull that up on the agenda for the time. But it's the front door where we had some broken windows, and along with the two side windows. And these are not like, I can't go to Window Nation and get them fixed. They have to be fixed by a contractor that's historic preservationists, and so they have to. They actually are going to take pieces out and then restore them at their shop and then put them back in.
And I also noticed the very specific instructions from MHT regarding the work as well, that they basically have to sign off since it is a historic property. It has that designation, so definitely understand that step being necessary. Were there any comments or questions from the council? I do appreciate that it is a woman-owned company, so that was great to see in reading through the proposal as well. So with that, we will move on to the next item, approval of a contract. I'm sorry, Councilmember, you had a question? It's all right. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval of a contract with Pronto Paving for the parking lot across the street. Town Administrator, or is Mr. Hall or Mr. Officer Reinhardt, whoever wants to take that?
It's Mr. Hall's, but he's not feeling well today, so I guess I'll take it. So it's, so we did put out a bid for resurfacing of the parking lot across the street in front of the police annex. We received 2 bids for it, Pronto Paving and Resurface Inc., and they're actually very close. There was 12.8 from Pronto Paving, and it was 13.7 or 13.8 from Resurface Inc. And it's, what the difference is that we are milling and doing a asphalt overlay. We're not just painting, we're not just adding a little bit of tar over it, which will be a little bit different than what's done on some of the other parking lots around here. But we're actually going to mill it back down so that it can be fixed properly. And that's really what this one is.
And they're going down, I think I saw 2 inches.
Yeah.
So
And it's because we've got a lot of potholes. I don't know. I think the chief will be appreciative of it. And if the chief is here for any other questions in regards to the quality of the parking.
Councilmember Brown was just asking if it's already paved. It is, but the potholes, we can walk over there between the meetings so you can see it, but the parking lot is not in good shape.
It's not the one that we see directly out our window. It's the one right in front of our building, which is a different one. That's because that parking is owned by the fire department, and the other one is ours, and ours has some serious
Ours
issues.
has the issues. But we'll have time to walk over and take a look. Any other questions from the council? All right, so that completes the discussion on that item. Next, we have approval of contract with Red Speed. I know Chief is ready to run out of the building on this one. We're finally getting closer. So Town Administrator and Chief, we'll turn it over to you.
This is a contract with Red Speed. We've gone through an extensive process. I'll just talk about the process regarding the agreement itself. Our attorney has reviewed this piece a couple times, and what you have is the newest contract from our attorney where we've made changes to it, and that has been mutually agreed upon by Red Speed. But Chief, would you please talk about the contract process and what we'll be doing here?
So what we're planning to do is, once the contract is approved by 5 minutes, I got 5 minutes, got the time? So, once this is approved, what we would like to do is put up a series of red light cameras around town, which would help with pedestrian crossing and crash collisions at those intersections. We know that we've had a couple of fatalities within the town. And we've also, near the high school, had a student get hit up by Bladensburg High School. So we're trying our best to make the town pedestrian safety friendly. With this contract process with Red Speed, we've gone back and forth. I want to give a shout out to Town Administrator, Ms. Belly Hespeth. She has really been working with the attorney on it. We've had a series of meetings with Red Speed, to include Thursday. We had a meeting. And so it's going well. So we're hoping to move this process forward. And
Thank you for that, Chief. And to your point, we are trying our best to help with all the pedestrians safely across town in Ward 1 and Ward 2, and hopefully prevent some of the things that we've experienced over the last few years. I do appreciate the detailed information provided, including the images, so you can see how it captures the license plate information. It said it does not capture the images of the driver. It's not going to do that, but I think it gets the more important information, getting that tag, and even noting how, even if it's blurry in the initial image, how they have the technology to zoom in and fix the image so that they can accurately get the tag number. So that's pretty remarkable. And to help your team out, I appreciate that they help with the administrative tasks, sending out, once the tickets are approved, if they're authorized by whoever you designate to handle it, that's not something your team has to do. So it's not adding more work on your staff, so.
right, with
commend-
red light tickets, civilians can handle those.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the initiative to reach out for a tool such as this. And again, I look forward to hopefully having reduced numbers of fatalities and incidents in the town. Any questions from the council?
You're up.
Your mic.
Thank you, Chief and Michelle, for this hard work that you're doing. You know, it's just to keep our community safe with these speed cameras.
Thank
I appreciate that.
I just have one question. I know that this is in place, and what about when the pedestrians run across the street? I'm just asking, do we have any provisions they run across the street, which may cause the untimely whatever? it's happening, because I see coming up on Ward 1, how they dash across the street, especially
Yeah.
going to that church.
Yeah.
It's a church that sits on the corner, and they just runs across the street. They have a little bit too much alcohol. They stumble across the street right by the liquor store. And I've actually seen that. So I'm just asking, we talk about what the drivers do, but what about pedestrians when they actually dot across the street, dot in front of the bus, just to get across the street? I
So,
will put things
in
in
our
perspective.
ongoing initiative and to work with State Highway Administration, so putting out better lighting, better signage out there. Some of the crosswalks, as you can see right here at Evanston, they have the alert tones, wait, do not walk. So hopefully we can get more of those out there, but sometimes trying to control human behavior can be a challenge.
Yet we'll just, we'll blame the driver when it's actually the pedestrians.
Councilmember Blunt, that's a really good point you raised, and because it is video, it would actually capture that, so that when the officers investigate the accident, they're able to see who truly caused it. They don't just arrive and they're taking the word of, whomever.
Right.
And then not only that, but I also noted that because it's software that's web-based, the officer could, while they're on site, as they're discussing the investigation and so forth, pull it up on their tablet, their phone, whatever computer device they have there, so they can see that image. It's not as though they have to wait till they come back to the station to be able to view it, as long as they're authorized to be on the account by the chief.
And we'll be getting a lot of signage and information out to the public of what we're planning to do.
You took my comment.
I'm sorry.
Good. No, it's
Yeah.
good because you noticed
just
it,
letting
but
them know this
in
is-
there, they also mentioned the community education campaign, so they have
Perfect.
resources
Okay.
that can help us with that. So as I was reading through, I was thinking, we can do a true public safety campaign. There's
Great.
like a 30-day window when you install the cameras where it's just warnings that are issued. It's not as though they install the cameras and boom, the fines and infractions start right away. So even leading up to that point, we, as the town, can work with Chief and maybe Ray and Michelle to put a plan together. This is our 90-day campaign as we're kicking this off, and really educate the public about the changes that are coming.
Right. Okay.
And then just keep reinforcing that periodically, but do it big in the beginning
Yeah,
so
I
that
agree.
everyone's aware. Good, I'm sorry, Chief.
No, that's good, man. That's all good stuff. And we also work with Safe Routes, with State Highway Administration. So there's a lot of that educational component out there, but as well as doing the video announcements for our public, working with our marketing specialists, working with our PIO, putting out some training videos, just educating people. But, back to Councilmember Blunt's point, if they just start out there, we don't just normally, we won't just hold the driver accountable. We go out and do a preliminary investigation to try to figure out what happened. But as this technology is evolving, we'll see when the AI stuff come out. It gets more into a lot of that stuff. So we do have a meeting coming up in the next 2 weeks, myself and the traffic officer, Corporal Harris. So we're working with the stop sign folks with the AI technology to kind of educate the community on pedestrian safety.
And council member, there's on page 153 is where they talk about the public awareness campaign that they can help us with. Because you may have more ideas as well, council member.
No, it's 6:48, so we're being mindful of the time, but, thank you, Chief. Red Speed, they've been trying to come into Bladensburg for a few years now, so thanks for that. But the other thing too is that public, we're not trying to catch you. It's like, stop speeding, do the speed limit, and you'll be all right.
Exactly.
You won't get a ticket.
And the final item under this section is the approval and award of the community grants for FY 2024. Town Administrator, over to you.
Mayor, Council, I was going to say, if you'd like to, I can go through that fully during your public session, if that makes more sense, if you need to take a break at this minute. And there's just, the only other thing I was going to mention is that there's another ordinance that will come to the council to adopt a red light camera ordinance, which in that session, you will also have that opportunity to talk about some of the things that you're looking at. So I just wanted to mention that too, that because you will have a separate ordinance that you'll have to approve. But Mayor, if that's okay, would you just rather I just go through it at the 7? Because it's a little bit more complicated than this timing.
I think, yeah, just to summarize, we have three
applications,
applicants.
yeah.
2 who we're familiar with, 1 is a new applicant.
Correct.
All the information's there in the packet. We Lead by Example is 1. We have
Sorry, Eco
City Farms for
yeah.
the 2nd, and then
Royalty Institute.
Royalty Institute for the 3rd. So just so we can be prepared to vote on those in the next meeting. That's pretty much it. At this time, I'll take a motion to adjourn tonight's council work session. Moved by Councilmember Dixon. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McBride. Any
Right,
comments
this
before we adjourn?
catches 'em
Hearing
up.
none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thank you so much.